Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is our Wisdom of the Sages daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. So I'm just returning from Tucson, Arizona, settling back to upstate. Ever places where it's freezing? Go to a place like on a vacation for work and it's really hot out. You're like, God, it's so nice out here. Oh, I should be living out here. I'm going to go, those poor suckers back home. And I come back home and you find out that it's actually been very warm and beautiful here. Bicycles, motorcycles. And most are like unhappy that they were enjoying. Isn't that horrible? Like, oh, I thought they were miserable. They were actually having a good time. It's deeply rooted. This deeply rooted to try to enjoy through other people's suffering. I was hoping that you were suffering here, but you were actually enjoying.
My enjoyment has now been minimized because you were also enjoying.
Yes. I know. What does your enjoyment have to do with me? Now, I was enjoying. Can't I just enjoy? Why must I enjoy more to see everybody else suffer? And so because of that nasty attitude, the gods made it like, it's just raining? It's like 35 and like furious rain up here today.
Oh, I was wondering because you've been a little spotty on your connection there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Not so bad, but hopefully it'll be good. But it's that rain, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway. I tell you, for me to watch Netflix, there's so much guilt riddled in with Netflix. Thanks to you, Kaustubha. No, thanks to the Bhagavatam. Thanks to the Bhagavatam.
There you go.
I was like, what am I doing? Even my daughter, like, should we watch something on the plane or should we not watch something? Are we going to willingly put some toxic thing in our brain? And the answer was, yes, we will. I watched Amistad. Amistad. I watched that.
Was it good?
You know me. I fall asleep as soon as I put anything on. Mm-hmm. It's just pain. It's a movie of pain. It's good to remember. Is filled with so much pain. People have suffered forever. That's my takeaway. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy we're here. Shall we talk about any other cheery Monday morning things today? All right, Kaustubha is just not giving me anything today. He's just like, come on. All right, shall we go, Kaustubha?
Let's go.
All right. Narayanam Chaivanam Saraswamyasam Tatojayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart was completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Omagyanā tamarandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam nena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're in a great place in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. Hey, before we go any further, if you have any questions or you want to reach out to us, you can reach us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. You can also connect with our community at patreon.com, patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. Got a lot going on in there. And for any type of donation you want to make just to support us, we appreciate it. You can give thousands of dollars per month, $40, 50 rupees, whatever you'd like to give.
I don't know if they accept rupees.
They don't accept rupees. So send some
I suppose they do. It's just
I'm sure they
converted
do.
to dollars.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Some type of tithing. Is that what they call it? Tithing? It's a great word, isn't it? Tithing. Some type of tithing. If you listen to an Apple podcast and you like this, you got to go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Something pleasant. I was reading the reviews yesterday. It really makes a difference. All that big Joe Rogan bump, it placed our video in every different category, new videos. I mean, anybody opened their iPhone could see Wisdom of the Sages. It was actually unbelievable, but it's sort of waning now. So if we get everybody at least on this Zoom group, we have a Zoom group. For some reason, maybe it's the weather. We only have 57 people on today, Kaustubha. We had like 90 yesterday.
More may come. We're back at 5 a.m. It's
we're back at 5 a.m. Well, wake up, people. If I have to wake up, you do. Okay, let's dive into this. Tom came in. I wasn't expecting Tom to come in. And it's like stormy, crazy weather outside, and the sheep are like losing their mind. And so Tom's coming in, and I thought it was the sheep trying to get in. I charged the door. I almost had a heart attack. Okay. Text 5?
I believe so. 185.
185.
Chapter 8, text 5.
Okay. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yuddhistira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous king who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi.
Yeah, you got
here.
Raghu, your connection bugged out a little bit during this, so I'm going to read the verse again just so people can hear it.
Okay.
So the clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yuddhistira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others died, their duration of life having decreased for the rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi.
A lot of backstory here.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to share a little of the backstory? I mean, there's so many interesting things about this verse.
Why don't you go, because my connection is a little crappy today.
Well, this is the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra. The Bhagavad Gita is just before the battle. And now this is at the end of the battle, where nearly everyone in that battle died. And we mentioned in some shows back how the Mahabharata begins with the Mother Earth, and she's suffering, and there's all these horrible demonic leaders, military leaders, these rulers, all these men that were just making it hard for her to bear. And so she approached Brahma, and Brahma, with the other devas, approached Lord Vishnu, who said, we'll take care of it all, we'll come back. And on that battlefield, the earth would be relieved of all these horrible men. So now this battle has been done. And there's a mention here that others also died, their duration of life having decreased for the rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. And the Mahabharata describes how the cousins of the Pandavas, headed by Duryodhana, that they were always envious of the Pandavas. and they were, by nature, they were cruel, and by nature they were envious, and whereas Yuddhistira and the Pandavas with Arjuna, they were always tolerant of them and always trying to do the right thing, very dharmic. So in any case, this, Duryodhana in so many ways tried to take the position of Yuddhistira, tried to take it away from him. And although he was unable to do it, he finally created this crooked dice match, wherein the Pandavas lost everything. But in that horrible scene, the pinnacle of just how degraded and cruel and just wrong in every way, of it, was when Duryodhana, just intoxicated with his newfound power and that he finally had the Pandavas where he wanted them, he called for their wife. And now this may sound strange to people, but all 5 Pandavas were married to Draupadi.
That sounds strange.
I don't know. To some people, I suppose it might.
You always hear about like the king having like thousands of wives or hundreds of wives and concubines, but like they have one wife and it's considered bizarre.
Yeah. So, I think even one man having more than one wife to many people is going to sound strange. But in any case, all of them were married to Draupadi, and so Duryodhana called for Draupadi. He actually sent his next eldest brother, Dushasana, bring Draupadi here right now. And this was in a public arena, and Arjuna and his brothers, the Pandavas, had to just watch this take place. And Duryodhana, Dushasana, he grabbed Draupadi by the hair and publicly dragged her into that arena. And then Duryodhana exposed his thigh and said, you sit on my thigh, you're my property now. And when she refused, then he said to Dushasana, strip her naked right now. And he tried, and he was pulling on her sari. And then this very famous scene from the Mahabharata where she realizes she can't hold on anymore. She lets go and she raises her hands up in the air and she calls out to Krishna, oh, Govinda. And Krishna provides unlimited cloth. So no matter how much he pulls on that sari, it keeps piling up more and more and more until he finally gives up.
Right.
So after...
I didn't realize he said, sit on my thigh, sit on my lap.
Yeah, sit on my lap like that.
I thought he was just like sort of in a coy way showing his thigh.
I believe he was saying, sit here on my thigh.
Sit on my thigh. That's even more.
Oh, it's so rotten. Yeah. And so now how painful that was for the Pandavas to have to watch, and for everyone to watch. What to speak of how painful it was for Draupadi. And so after that, the Pandavas were banished to live in the forest for 12 years and then to live incognito in public for 1 year. And if they were discovered, they would have to go back out for another 12 years. But before leaving, this is all happening in one event. The Pandavas took their vows before they left. And those vows were very heavy vows. The vows were about who they were going to kill when they came back for this offense, for the rough handling of Draupadi's hair, for all of the evils that they had done. And it was particularly Bhima, one of the elder brothers of Arjuna, whose vows were just like terrifying. And he said the thigh, he said all 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, headed by Duryodhana, I will kill all 100 of them when I return. And he said the thigh that Duryodhana exposed to Draupadi, with my club, with my mace, I'll shatter that thigh and I'll kill him. And the hand that touched Draupadi's hair, I'll sever that hand from its body and I'll kill him. And so now that's all been done. And this chapter is following that now Duryodhana, his thigh shattered, him lying on the ground dying. Ashvatthama, the son of Drona, he kills the 5 sons of the Pandavas and brings their heads as if he had killed the Pandavas, and in some extremely bizarre, grotesque, way, he was trying to satisfy Duryodhana. I killed the Pandavas. Now you can die happy. But he realized these aren't the Pandavas that you killed, and what you've done is horrible. Even Duryodhana could understand it. Oh my, even he's feeling regret. This has just gone so far. This is just so bad. So in any case, this chapter begins with now Yuddhistira is victorious. He's won, but he's still feeling such lamentation. And yesterday, the last verse we read was about how Krishna and the different munis or the different sages were with wisdom, with transcendental knowledge. They were pacifying the Pandavas and helping them feel better, giving them a spiritual perspective, a broader perspective on it all. And now this verse we read today, that so Duryodhana and his party who cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yuddhistira, that was through the crooked dice match. Now they had all been defeated. Now it mentions here, there's a name used here for Yuddhistira. Now, if you read when I read the Mahabharata, I suppose if I had to pick a favorite character, it's Yuddhistira, right?
Yeah.
Who's just the emblem of Dharma, who's just put under so many difficult circumstances, but is always striving to do the right thing, even if personally it's a very difficult thing to do. He's ruled by Dharma, and his faith in Dharma is so strong that normally even if we're trying to be good, we cut corners, right? It'll be easier not to be good in this circumstance. It'll be easier not to do the right thing. It's not so important. But Yuddhistira was so firmly rooted to Dharma. And so for me, his character becomes so inspiring. But it's the name that's used for him here is used throughout the Bhagavatam in many places. They could call him so many things, but they call him Ajata Satru, right? One who has no enemy. Yeah, one who has no enemy. And now he was like the ruler of the rulers. Like he was the emperor. There are many kings, and the various kings of the world voluntarily accepted his rule because he was so righteous and so powerful. And generally, when you're in that kind of position, you have enemies. It's hard to be a leader on any level and not have enemies, right? Not have people that resent you, and for you not to resent others. It's the way this world works. But he was so dharmic that he saw, even if people saw him as their enemy, he saw no one as his enemy. And that's the view of the yogi. That's the mentality of the yogi.
I have no enemies. Even your opposing force is not your enemy.
Yeah.
So let's just get that straight. Ajata Shatru. That's a great word to write down on the board. Ajata
Satru. It's AJATA-SATROH.
So that doesn't mean people don't dislike you. They may dislike you, but you like them anyway.
One who has no enemy. That I don't see anyone as my enemy.
Right. Now, like a Christ-like figure who they killed him. Even though he was doing everything wonderful, they killed him. But he had no enemies. So Yuddhistira is like this.
Yeah. And so that quality of him is apparently very important. Important to here, important to Sutta Goswami. Throughout the Bhagavatam, important to Shukadeva Goswami, because that's how they referred to him. When we can think about this, if someone were to choose one quality of us, what would they choose, right? What is it that shines forward in our character that someone would name us for? And this is the quality that was so appreciated in Yuddhistira. And it's this quality, if we're going to be real yogis, if we're going to actually truly be able to control our mind and absorb it deep in spiritual content, we need to have no enemies. We need to not feel animosity towards anyone. That animosity clouds our mind, colors our mind. And we're never really, it's a type of ignorance to see others as our enemy, in certain cases, one may have to deal with someone as if they're dangerous or an enemy or so on. But for the yogi, they don't feel animosity towards others. And because they have that, they have a peaceful mind and they can actually meditate. Now, that term Ajatasattu is used in this very famous verse, right? That will be spoken in the third canto, where Kapila Deva, an incarnation of Krishna, speaking to his mother Devahuti, describes what are the qualities of a sadhu, right? And this word sadhu is an interesting term, right? Like nowadays, it's used a lot for these renunciates who kind of naked or near naked, wandering dreadlocked.
It's used super freely in India. It means any guy walking around sort of dressed in orange robes. You know, they either a holy man or they're just sort of mendicants, or they could be practically homeless, but they're begging.
Yeah.
It's sometimes merged.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Bhagavatam clarifies, well, what is a sadhu?
Yeah.
And they use it in terms of Yuddhistira, right? Or Yuddhistira said it in that verse.
I mean, certainly Yuddhistira this word, this verse rather, is like, it's meant to, it's interesting. It says, it says sadhava, it says sadhubhushanaha, that these are the, bhushana means like the jewels or the ornaments. And so it says, these are the ornaments of a true sadhu, right? You ready?
Yeah.
The verse is Titikshava Karunakaha Surida Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatrava Shantaha Sadhava Sarubhushanaha.
Yes.
Yeah, the symptoms of a sadhu. And, even the word sadhu, it just means like good or well done. Like, like in a public crowd, if someone says something that's just really nice and they just said the right thing, everybody goes like sadhu, sadhu, right? Like, very good. This is, well said. So sadhu means like a good person, So the symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures. And his characteristics are sublime. The ornaments of a sadhu, right? Titikshava, tolerant. Karunaka, merciful. Suhridhaha, friendly. Sarvadehinam, to all living entities, to everyone, right? We have to become like that. If we want to practice yoga, if you want to take your yoga off the mat, you have to start to become friendly to everyone, Ajata satravaha, inimical to none, has no enemies. Shantaha, like people say, shanti, peaceful. Sadhava, abiding by the scriptures, the really important point. Where do I get my guidance? Where do I derive how I should live? I go to these sacred texts. I refer to them. Sadhubhushanaha, these are the ornaments that decorate the sadhu, right? You ever hear about, there's a story in South India about this, they're the Alwars, the great saints. The great
Bhakti Alwars.
Yeah, the Bhakti Alwars. They're these poets from South India that go back. There 12 of them, and they cover like a long period of time. It's not like they all live together. They cover, like a millennia or something like that. And among them was, what was her name? It's slipping my mind now. Oh God, I feel so stupid for forgetting her name. But
Kaustubha.
Yeah. But she, there's a story about how she, someone share that with me, please, because I know someone out there is going to.
The 12 Alwars are all men?
No, there's one female Alwar.
I'm Alwar illiterate.
Anyway, I wish someone could have. Aditi, save me. Where are you?
Where is
Arvind,
Arvind,
someone help.
Guys.
Any case, the female Alwar, maybe someone can Google it. But she, when she was a little girl, she lived in Srirangam, which is one of the most like important temples in the history of India. And the deity there is a deity of Lord Vishnu, Raghunath. And her father was one of the main priests in the Raghunath temple. And it's said that when she was a little... Andal, thank you so much. Andal, yeah. So Andal, when she was a little girl, she... her father was the priest, and so it was said that her father caught her doing something. She used to do this. She would take they have these beautiful garlands in South India, that they offer. And she would take the garlands that were meant to be offered to Lord Vishnu in the temple. Before they were offered to Lord Vishnu, she would decorate herself with them, and she'd be like looking in the mirror. And when her father saw this, he said, "What are you doing?" That's and that's one of the principles in any offering that we make, whether it be offering of food, in the rituals of a temple offerings. You don't taste the food before you offer it. You don't wear the garland before you offer it. You offer it to the Lord first. And then after then you might wear it yourself or taste it yourself. So he's saying, you can't do that. That's wrong. And so he kind of corrected his daughter. But then that night when he was sleeping, he had a dream where Raghunath, Lord Vishnu, speaks to him and says, I actually prefer to wear it after she's worn it. And the idea was that when she's wearing it, like we might wear it to decorate ourselves and feel special ourselves, she was wearing it because she wanted to look beautiful for Lord Vishnu, right? Like her mind was, it was a different mindset. And so, she wanted to decorate herself so when she appeared before the Lord, she was pleasing to him. And I always think of this in terms of this verse, this verse, Titikshava Karunika, the ornaments of a sadhu. How do we decorate ourselves so that we're pleasing to the Lord? How does a Bhakti-yogi think? What do I decorate myself with? It's not with fancy clothes. It's not with jewelry necessarily, but it's with these ornaments of the sadhu, right? Tolerance, mercy, kindness, having no enemy, being peaceful, abiding by the scriptural texts. These are our ornaments that we.
Friend to everyone, or kind to everyone.
So any case, in this verse, I
got a question for you. Let me ask you a question, Kaustubha. So we understand, Yuddhistira sets that example of dharma, he's the good guy, he's actually a sadhu. Then you get someone like Bhima who wants revenge, wants to kick everybody's butt. Yeah. How is that supposed to, and he's considered a great soul. Where does that fit in? Like shouldn't we be trying to uproot revenge in our heart? Here, he's making vows. He's going to kill all the brothers of Duryodhana. He wants to smash the thighs of Duryodhana. He wants to wash Draupadi's hair with the blood of Dushasana. He wants to rip his heart out. He's like almost like these crazy, super violent vows of revenge. How does that fit in?
Yeah, good question.
And are we allowed to be revengeful? Are we allowed to desire revenge?
You see,
a unique individual, or
well, that's where there's two, and we've spoken about this before. There's two dharma. There are two levels of dharma, right? There's the eternal dharma, and that is that we're all, by nature, connected to with an attitude of loving service, connected to God, and we're eternal, we're fixed in truth, and we're blissful by nature. Like that's our eternal dharma, and it's ultimately to serve God, to connect with God through service, through loving service. But then there are temporary dharmas that are relative to the time and circumstances that we're in. So like right now, you have the dharma of being a father. I don't, right? And you didn't have the dharma when you were younger. So it's that dharma, those duties that you accept, those are based on the circumstance, the relative. You have that dharma for some time and then you let go of it. Now, Yuddhistira had the dharma, the temporary dharma of being a warrior, of being a ruler, of a king. And that meant that he had to take up certain duties to carry that out. It was up to him to protect others. These, in their culture, the horrible crimes that were committed to Draupadi, someone was meant to step up and correct that, right? And that had to be Yuddhistira in this case. So he was a warrior, but Yuddhistira is so interesting because although he was a warrior and he had the nature of a warrior, now he's also out there killing, right, on that battlefield. But he's really drawn towards the nature of the Brahmana. He's really drawn towards the nature of the wise person who's like peaceful, who's very tolerant, etc. And it becomes in the Mahabharata, that becomes like it becomes a tension that's in Yuddhistira's life. Sometimes he's criticized for it, even by his own family members. You're too much like a Brahmana. What kind of warrior are you? We need you to step up and be the warrior right now. We need you to be angry right now because this needs to be dealt with. And so Bhima, the next eldest brother, he really is more embodies that warrior mood, and he's taking all these horrible vows, you know. But, you know, what I see is that there are bhakti yogis of all different natures. We have a body and a mind that has a particular nature, you know. There are differences in us. There's a difference between you and I. There's a difference between myself and my wife. There's a different, you know, we're all different. And that difference is psychological, it's physical. You know, the different chemicals that are rushing through our blood or kind of drawing us in different ways, the different backgrounds that we've grown up in, the different karmas that we brought upon ourselves. It gives us a different psychophysical nature. But we can all surrender that or offer that offer our body, offer our mind. And Krishna is willing to accept it if it's done with love. Mm. And that's going to manifest in different ways. So when Bhima's furious and when he's taking those vows, his heart is in the right place, you know, because he couldn't stand that injustice, you know, and he was ruled by his love for Draupadi as being so dear to Krishna, his being called upon by Krishna to step up in this. So although his devotion was manifesting according to his nature, through the warrior spirit, whereas in others it may manifest in other ways. But they're both offered.
You know, I think that. By the way, that was a very good and very complete answer. I'm going to just chime in something. That internal dharma, that nitya dharma, that dharma that we all have in common is we are part and parcels. We are servant of something bigger. We are not the center. And sort of what we do by studying the Bhagavatam and, you know, the idea of the 6 pillars and this titikshava karunika, how to be a sadhu. We're really in training to adopt these qualities. And our external qualities, we've already been living that. And oftentimes those external qualities have not been serving us. So we say, like, focus on those inner qualities to find some spiritual connection. Then the outer qualities will start to find their own water, so to speak. You'll start to do them. You can be angry, but it's without the type of rage. You'll know how to evoke anger, not that anger possesses you. You'll know how to you'll have greed, but the greed won't be greed by your lower nature. It'll be an eagerness to associate with saintly people. All the lower qualities that get manifest through that karma, that DNA, that chemical, however you described it earlier, they will manifest in a pure form, and some of them will be you'll let go of completely.
Right.
Perhaps it was rage, and perhaps you're not meant to be a rageful person whatsoever. Like if for example, if you're a warrior class of person, due to your physical body and your mind, that will be refined. You know, there is a class of people who will be the warriors. In all cultures, they have that to protect the vulnerable. That's what a civilization is. But how they protect is what makes them dharmic or against dharma, adharmic. So what we do is we sort of hone in on what we have in common is how can I develop those saintly qualities that are connected to divinity? And then what do you think about that for an answer?
I think that's a great answer. And you know,
our external qualities will find their balance.
Like, for instance, if you take the life of Bhima in general, he's not always raging like this. You know, it was only in circumstances. He was a kind, you know, thoughtful, in many ways, gentle person. You know, it's always interesting. You read about the Rajasuya sacrifice in the Mahabharata, where it was this big event held by Yuddhistira.
It's like a spiritual festival. The Rajasuya. Whenever we use that word sacrifice, it sounds like they're stringing up a goat or something. It's not. It's just like a religious ritual.
Yeah, it was a real important one. And so guests were coming from all over. And it describes how each of the Pandavas had a different responsibility. You know, one of them took the responsibility of especially caring for the elders, you know, making sure the older people just have everything that, you know, someone's got to make sure they have a seat to sit in. Someone has to make, if they need a special diet, someone's got to be there. There's that kind of thoughtfulness. You know, Bhima had a special, you know, everyone was, you could see they had the mood of a servant and of sensitivity and of care. So they weren't, it wasn't Bhima was just always raging with anger.
Sure.
But look what happened. His wife was just sexually assaulted in public right in front of him. So that rage was a righteous rage, you know?
Sure.
But I really like your point, and it made me think of something that I just forgot. But in any case, you know, you were talking about refining, that this becomes refined, that those lower, that those less stereotypical yogi qualities that are in us, that we kind of let go of them. And we see that, like, the Bhagavatam is a history of all these kings who had to play the role of the warrior. It means that you're powerful. We want you to use that power to protect everyone. And if someone's coming up and being a danger to others, you know, then we need you to deal with it, even if it means getting physical. And then they embrace that temporary dharma. Okay, I'll be the protector. I'll do it for God. I'll do it for the other people. I'll do it selflessly. And in that way, because it's selfless, there's no karmic reaction for that. But we see that all these kings, they were always waiting for that day where they could let it go, where they could hand off that responsibility to another and cultivate, as you're saying, let go and refine those qualities to where they become peaceful, shanti, to where they become, no one is my enemy. You know, that they were waiting for that day. And as soon as they could get it, as soon as there was a son or some other qualified person ready to take on that role, they would let it go. All that power, all of that fame, you know, all of that luxury that they lived in, they were eager to let it go, wander off into the forest and live that simple life.
You know, it's actually, there's so much scope for appreciating differences in the Vedic culture, because someone like Yuddhistira or even Bhima, they're not your quintessential holy people.
Yeah.
You know, it's confusing if you're new to this, or especially if you're from the West. What does it mean to be holy? What does it mean to be a sadhu? Does it mean I give up everything? Does it mean I live as a hermit in a cave, in a solitary cabin? These guys are kings. They're kings and they're warriors.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the whole Mahabharata, I mean, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is stories of saintly kings and their incredible losses and reversals in life they go through, and how do they react with such pain? What is their reaction going to be? Which is great for us, because there is a type of mystery, like, well, I suffer, but I'm a nobody. But like someone who has a lot of wealth and power, they must not suffer. They must be living great. Oh, they must have everything taken care of. And so when you hear about an emperor who's experiencing incredible pain, hey man, I got that pain too. It takes the pain just off of my shoulders' existence and makes you realize, actually, the whole world experiences so much pain. And we're going to experience that right now as they speak about their mother. And their mother, who's an empress, she experienced an entire life of pain. Grandfather Bhima, who is like the senior of the whole Kuru house, his whole life was painful. And so no one gets sort of an escape from pain in this material world. It's not an economic status that makes me free from pain. Matter of fact, some of the wealthiest people ever have experienced tons of pain in their life. They might have some other privilege, but not necessarily free from pain. And so it's nice to zoom in on people like Bhima, like the five Pandavas. Yeah.
That it's not like some stereotypical cookie cutter idea of how we become a yogi or how we, you know, a Bhakti-yogi. I think sometimes I think it was last summer, I was asked to speak, maybe it was 2 summers ago, at one event that we had, one retreat up in Pumpkin Hollow up in upstate New York. And I was asked to speak about 2 people that were very influential in my life, 2 of my gurus. One was Tamal Krishna Goswami and one is Raghunath Swami, right? And because these are 2 like important leaders in the world of bhakti yoga, and very influential people, and people that I have had the opportunity to live closely with and to serve. And with the way that I presented it was, they were very different people, right?
Completely different people.
Yeah. And I said one of them kind of trained me through tolerance, which is like more the stereotypical yogi that we mentioned in this verse, right? Titikshava, tolerant. That no matter what the external thing is, I just don't really respond to it. I don't react. And Raghunath Swami is like that. Raghunath Swami, and when I use this word stereotypical, I don't mean it in a way meaning that it's superficial, but stereotypical. When you meet him, it's like, that's what I expect.
It's almost as if he sort of floated out of the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, representing Vidura or representing Narada, just sort of floating in. Yeah. Singing some songs, floating away.
Everything that I would expect that person to be, he's living it right there. All his mannerisms and so on, Whereas like Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was like sharp and aggressive and intolerant in a sense, right? Like if you were not on the ball around him, if you didn't have your mind focused on the service to be done, he was very intolerant. And he would be like, get out of here. Like, I don't have time for, it was like.
It's kind of like the Californians again. Get out of here.
It wasn't like that. But in other words, he was intolerant to lack of yogic focus, to lack of bhakti focus. And he would let you know it. Whereas like Raghunath Swami is like almost tolerant of any kind of thing, So they had very different personalities, but what they shared in common was they gave of themselves completely, right? They gave themselves to God, to service, to devotional service completely. And so that's the primary quality of the devotee, is that they've given themselves entirely to God. And then they may have external qualities that may appear different. I say he was intolerant. Actually, he was very tolerant. He tolerated so many things to do his service, but he might deal with people in a way that would appear intolerant.
I brought him a glass of water once to Malkish Maharaj, and it had water like dripping down the side. Yeah. Big mistake. Really?
Like you're
going to give that to me? That's your offering.
And that's because he's like, okay, if I'm in the role of your teacher and you're in the role of my student, do you have any reverence for your teacher? Because that's how I practiced bhakti. I had reverence for my teacher. I wouldn't just hand him a glass.
It was actually, if I share that with you now, it sounds like, who is this jerk? Why would he say that?
Yeah.
It was like delicate, like surgery of one's ego.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Right.
The day I went shopping for him and he asked me for that horseradish. Where's the horseradish? Where's the horseradish, Raghunath? They didn't have any. Are you sure? Yeah, they didn't have any. Are you sure?
Did you ask?
Who did you ask? I want to know everybody you asked.
Did you ask two people? Yeah.
How many people did you ask?
That's what it was like to be trained by him. It was like, if you came forward, excuse number one was not good enough.
Yeah.
You would really have to, if he asked you to accomplish something, you either came back having accomplished it, or you better be incredibly prepared to describe every step that you took to try to accomplish it and how it just couldn't be done due to the external circuit. He would pick you apart and you would feel naked and foolish. And
the dad had to drive him to the mall in DC. Okay, Raghunath. I wasn't even Raghunath. I was Bhakta Ray. Okay, Bhakta Ray. At 12 noon, you're going to drive me down to the mall, and you better have directions on how to get there. Oh, sure. Go swim. Of course. And so
this doesn't mean the mall, like the shopping mall. This means like
shopping mall. Yeah, it's at the place at the what is it?
They call it the mall in DC
Museum.
Yeah,
in Washington DC.
Yeah.
And she goes, and you better have directions how to get there. So sure. So me and my.
And that's the way it was, right? It's like, I'm not going to waste my time. Yeah, I can't have you wasting my time being lost driving around. This is your service. Get it straight. When you're going to drive, I want you to know exactly how to get there, right?
So of course I'm looking at my other equally dopey assistant saying, you know how to get there, right? Yeah, you know how to get there. So here comes Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And he says, Okay, you two know how to get there, right? We both looked at each other. Yeah, of course. He gets in the car. He goes, listen, I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a nap in the back seat. Okay, wake me up when we get there. So as soon as we start going down the road, my assistant looks at me. I think we're going the wrong way. We did had to make a U-turn. So he, in the car, you can feel a U-turn. He just goes, speculation! Speculation!
He knew you didn't know.
He knew I didn't. It's, that's what every 22-year-old kid, you need to get trained up sometimes, and get a little chastised. It was healthy and it wasn't abusive.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's all in how it's given. Yeah. There's a way to give anger. There's a way to give correction without hate or rage. And it's received as love. It's actually received as love. I never felt abused. I always felt loved by him.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that story about driving, because now there's a story about Raghunath Swami like that, right? Because there's once when Raghunath Swami, he was doing a program out in Long Island. But that same evening or late afternoon, he had to catch a flight to Florida. And the reason why he was going there, nobody knew, not even the people that were driving him. But he was going to meet with the president of the United States, right? He was going to meet with Obama. So he said in a way that was more he said, do you know how to get there? Do you know exactly how to get there? It's very important that I be on time. And they're like, yes, but they didn't. And they got lost and time was getting tight. And he was holding it in, but you can see, this might be the one time where he might blast someone, but they got him there just in time, and he made it. But I think as they got to the airport, he explained to them, I'm going to meet the president of the United States right now. If I would have missed this flight, I would have missed the opportunity.
I would have, I don't think I've ever seen Raghunath Swami angry.
No. Although I've seen him have many, many reasons where almost anyone else would become very angry. Yeah. So in any case,
it manifests different according to our karmic machine, our karmic carcass.
Yeah.
But we are in the business of right now with our morning study. We're in the business of fine tuning, what our real identity is, where we're towards all of our actions, and it's going to come out different. And this is why we deal with people that are even very sincere and approaching bhakti, but they got issues. Why? Because we're still entrapped in these bodies, and these bodies are going to have issues. I know really people who really are focused in on bhakti, but they still might drive me crazy about something, or they might do something and I would do it. Because we're all trying to reach high. And when you reach high, you're going to fall short, especially if you haven't been trained in any of this stuff. And also this karmic body that we have, they're all different. And they all want to serve in a different way. We all are, our brains are carved with different intelligence and different proclivities of how to serve. And this brings us back to that last chapter, how you could have great souls all with different opinions on how they want to serve. Even Krishna had a different opinion.
Great point. And I like the idea that there has to be a balance in how we see this. It's a fact that we have different natures. And so we're going to serve in different moods and in different ways, and different emotions may arise in us. And even some of the emotions that are sometimes characterized as negative or unfavorable for yoga, if they're offered with the right attitude, they actually are favorable, like even anger or frustration or intolerance. If they're not selfish, but for service, if they manifest through service, then actually they're consistent with a bhakti-yogic mindset. At the same time, we have to be careful. And we can't necessarily just justify all of those saying, yeah, well, I'm doing it for God, so it doesn't matter. And I remember, as a disciple of Tamal Krishna Goswami, when I was given certain responsibility, I would think, okay, this is the way that you lead, even sometimes with anger, calling people out, being a little heavy like that. And I remember once I got really angry at someone for just not being responsible or not doing things right or whatever.
Was it me?
No, it wasn't you. And
because you do take on the mood of your teachers, so to speak.
You do, yeah,
right?
You do. Yeah. And so, whatever I said, I kind of lost it. I kind of got, I kind of blew my top a little bit.
Yeah.
And then this devotee said to me, he said, he was an interesting person, and he said to me, okay, now I see you are, I forget exactly how he phrased it, but now I see you are out of control too. You are like others. You just, basically he said to me, now your weaknesses have just been revealed to me, that you lose control. And when he said it, it really penetrated me. I really felt like a fool. He did it in a respectful way, but it was direct, it was very direct. And then it made me think, and it made me think that, although I was at that time, because for me, being a brahmachari, being a monk, it was almost like being a Marine.
Yeah. It was very Marine-like, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, that kind of strictness and that kind of regulation and that kind of hierarchy and all of that was there. And I had to think to myself that, what, when I manifest anger in my devotional quote unquote service, when I do that, I don't ever see good results coming from it. Now my guru may do it and I see good results come from it.
Right.
But when I do it, I don't see any good results coming from it. And I kind of determined at that time, I'm not going to become angry anymore. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to lose control like that. I'm not going to justify that. I'm going to control that. And not that I've been perfect in following that. And I've gone through times in my life that have been very challenging where I felt it rise up in me again. But that became like a really important lesson for me in life, to just say, you know what, when I manifest that anger, nothing good comes from it. Let me let go of it. I'm not meant to serve that way. So we do have to refine.
What do you say we just collect like Yuddhistira?
I'm sorry,
let's set our compass to beer. I'm lagging all day.
Yes, say it again.
I'm a lagger.
You're still lagging as you're talking about your lagging.
Let's set our compass on Yuddhistira.
Yeah. And again, we're individuals, so it may not, that'll help us in different, some of us will more fully embody it and some of us less, but yeah, let's get inspired by Yuddhistira. Let's read Mahabharata. Let's learn from him, and let's cultivate these sadhu bhushana. There's in that term sadhu bhushana, the ornaments of a sadhu, I believe it's meant to be a little ironic, because a sadhu doesn't wear jewelry, right? So they're like, that typical sadhu is like wearing nothing but a loincloth and his dreadlocks, But
right.
But this is the jewelry. These are the ornaments that he's wearing. Titikshava, Karunaka, Surita Sarvadehinam. Friendly to every living being. Let's try to be that. Let's try to be tolerant. Let's try to be merciful. Let's try to have no enemies in this world. Let's try to be peaceful. Let's try to abide by the wisdom that are in these sacred texts and wear those ornaments for the pleasure of God, right? This is how I want to decorate myself for your pleasure. And this is yoga off the mat, right? This is where it gets real. We covered only one verse, and we didn't even read the purport, which was a big discussion.
You talked a lot today, which was nice.
Well, you were lagging.
Just shut up and listen more.
You were lagging, so I felt
I'm
I had
lagging.
to pick it up.
I'm a lagger. I apologize for being the lagger. Thanks for everybody joining our podcast. 1 hour a day, a little commitment to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Forgive me for the bad connection today. I'm out in the countryside here. If you want to stay connected with us, Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. Mara, our private school trained assistant. Well, we've got a lot of ladies here that went to all girls private school. Who else was it? Katie Bell? Did Katie Bell go to private school? Oh, Kelly Skinner went to private school? You gave me a whole list and now you forgot, Mara. Okay.
So
we know who you are. Anyway, Who?
Suryaji.
Who did?
Surya.
Oh, Suryaji went to private school. All right, that's a new one. Maybe all the ladies on this went to private school. Anyway, thanks. Yeah. I'm very nice.
Sarka
Thanks.
went to private school.
Is Sarka went to private school? What the heck? Kelly Skinner went to Ski Racing Academy private school. What? My school stunk. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. Zoomers, thank everybody joined us late. More people are here now than were here earlier. And I'm looking forward to be back. Hey, this weekend, 6 Pillars with Raghunath at the Bhakti Center. Join me. And Kaustubha, I'm sure, is going to be around. And me, Kaustubha, Bobby Marchand, we do our Super Soul training here in the summer. If you're interested, check that out, supersoulyoga.com. That's what we're doing. Thanks, everybody, for joining the show. What do you say we just start clapping now? Get a little dancey for the rest of the day. Take that namaste hand clap. Come on. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe.